Nació mientras jugaban a la Mega Drive y creció alimentándose de juegos. Es Zorman, el gamer. Ningún juego se me resiste.
Hola amigos de YouTube, soy Zorman,
El gamer.
y estamos en un nuevo vídeo de ZormanWorld, un vídeo me parece muy especial, posiblemente sea mi vídeo favorito. Hoy empezamos una nueva aventura. Es un videojuego relativamente poco conocido, un videojuego que ha sido una grata sorpresa para mí. En cuanto empecé a leer sobre este videojuego, dije, este videojuego va a ser algo único, algo que no se me va a olvidar en toda mi vida. Y creo, solamente creo porque por supuesto todavía no lo he terminado, lo vamos a empezar hoy, creo que va a ser una de las mayores aventuras y más emotivas que vamos a jugar jamás. Si no lo conocéis, os animo a que os vengáis conmigo porque esta aventura llamada Horace es algo mágico. ¿Estáis listos? Vamos allá. Vale, empezar nueva partida. Empieza la aventura, gente. ¿Estáis todos listos? Horace, este juego maravilloso que nos cautivará a todos. Estoy completamente seguro. Atención a la historia, que es uno de sus puntos fuertes según he leído. Apunta de que este va a ser nuestro personaje. ¡Ojo! ¡El primero! El primero de esta cadena. Eso nos convierte, de cierta manera, en alguien especial. Uy, esa mirada triste. ¿No recuerda un Lego? A mí me recuerda mucho a un Lego. Uy. ¿Qué le da? Uy, ojo, que estoy dentro, señores. Tened cuidado. A ver dónde me lleva Amazon. Espero que me lleve a una bonita familia, con un hermoso perro. Solomon Automatons. No tiene cara de ser buena gente ese señor, ¿eh? No me ha tocado con buena gente, ¿no? Tiene cara de que va a apagar los cigarros en mi cabeza. Parece como una familia mafiosa, ¿no? ¡Ojo! Mis primeros pasos. Poca broma, ¿eh? Estoy aprendiendo a andar. Puedo agacharme. Izquierda, derecha, todo correcto. Vale. Mira, esta familia ya me cae mejor.
And so, I was born. The first people I remember seeing were the old man, the old lady, and their daughter, Heather. After they'd said hello, the old man powered me down so he could install some software. I could tell they were nice people. The old man didn't give me a silly voice or stupid personality. And the old lady didn't dress me like a clown. Although for some reason, Heather really didn't like me. Once I'd had time to get used to walking, the old man asked me to dash from one end of the room to the other.
Yo lo hubiera vestido de payaso y le hubiera puesto una voz estúpida, o sea... Eso tenedlo claro. Yo estoy loco. El anciano es buena gente. El robot me hubiera odiado, seguro. A ver, me dice... ¿La I? Ah, con la I puedo correr, ¿vale? Bueno, de momento, muy Super Mario. Los mismos controles que Mario Maker. Esto me conviene, me compensa muchísimo. Vale. Vale, la jugabilidad es buena. Tiene un pequeño input lag, ¿vale? Por ponerle un pequeño pero.
Next, the old man spent a couple of hours building some wooden platforms. He said he wanted me to jump up them. But I must admit, I was scared. It wasn't until I saw Heather and her mother happily climbing up them that I decided it might be okay.
Vale. Que vaya saltando, ¿no? Ok. Tiene un poquito más de fricción que el Mario Maker. Me tengo que acostumbrar a
The
ello.
old man then rearranged the platforms. He told me to try to reach the other end of the room without touching the floor. Heather said the floors made it louder, but when I smiled at her, she just frowned and looked away. The old lady arranged some pillows and blankets.
Nos tenemos que ganar a la hija,
I fell, but I think she just wanted it to look more like lava.
El juego, de momento, tiene muy buena pinta, poca broma. Tiene pero que muy buena pinta. Creo que está hecho con un gusto exquisito. Por lo menos esta introducción me parece muy buena. Y el tono de humor que tiene me parece muy acertado.
When I reached the other side, the old man just smiled and said,
Muy entrañable.
"That'll do for now."
Tutorial completado. No me cae bien este señor. Perdonad por ser tan prejuicioso, pero es que tiene cara de mala gente, ¿eh? Oh, qué hambre me ha entrado.
Days after those first lessons, the family had a big meal, and I was introduced to everyone else. The professor was the old man's brother. He was very quiet, and always seemed to just kind of stare at me. He had lived with the old man for 5 years. The house was so huge they barely saw each other. He preferred instead to stay in his room, leaving everything up to his butler, Mr. Deck, as he insisted everyone call him, although the professor always called him Anton. For a while, he called me a yellow bastard, but the old man made him stop, as he thought it sounded racist. Mr. Silton was the old man's driver. Before he worked here, he'd gotten in with some bad people and was the driver in a post office robbery, although it all went wrong for some reason. Mr. Silton showed me a video of his band. I'm sure some people must like it, but I just found it terrifying.
La carita.
Then was Alice. She was the cook. She was a nice old lady. When she was younger, she had been a TV chef. Then, years later, she had a small part in Coronation Street. Mr. Silton said, before she worked for the old man, Alice was quite a hoarder. She kept old newspapers and bicycles. And something about a poo in a shoebox.
¿Cómo? ¿Una caja de zapatos?
The next morning, the old man
Eso
gathered
es el señor
everyone
mojón de
together
South
to
Park.
show them what I was capable of. What else does he do? Asked Mr. Silton. The old man smiled. He can help around the house. Could he help me with my newspaper collecting? Asked Alice. I'm not sure that's a good idea, said the old lady, but he can do all sorts of jobs. Yeah, said Mr. Silton, shove a stick up his ass and he can do Deck's job. Now, said the old man, we have company, pointing to some important-looking people. 2 large men, both called Gary, set up what the old man referred to as lasers. He said again, I should try to get from one end of the room to the other, but I shouldn't be worried, as I had a special chip which meant no matter how damaged I was, I couldn't die. He said it was like infinite lives in a video game. But when he realized I didn't understand, he said he would explain another time.
Vale. ¿Qué tengo que hacer? Porque... Ah, vale, o sea, tengo que... El timing, ¿no? Soy tonto, ¿eh? Soy tonto. Es que no me acostumbro mucho a la fricción que tiene todavía el juego. Tendría que haber... ido con más calma. Oye, ¿no habrá un extra por aquí? ¿No puedo subir ahí arriba? De alguna manera. No.
Everybody clapped, except the important-looking men. Not exactly a cold, calculated killer, Is it? Said the man in black. The man in grey laughed. What kind of artificial intelligence was that? He asked. Move right, unless there's something in the way. Okay, said the old man.
Me cae bien
He
el
turned
anciano,
to me and whispered, they're going to make it quite a bit tougher. But I'm sure you'll be fine.
A ver lo que van a hacer ahora. Ya me metí un calambrazo. Ojo, poca broma, poca broma con esto. Vale, me choco con el techo, poca broma con eso también. Me choco con el techo techal. Ah, también puedo regular el salto como en Mario Maker, ¿no? Puedo, dependiendo del tiempo que pulse el botón de salto, salta más o menos. Ok. Vale, estaba comprobando cosas de jugabilidad, Ok, pues ya está, ¿no?
The garage then rearranged the room one last time. The old man smiled. Now, there's no need to look so glum, he said. I'm still happy with everything you've done today. So this time, I was determined to do him proud.
¡Qué grande! Puede hacer un salto tan mínimo que es prácticamente un salto inexistente. Esto no es común en los videojuegos. Siempre suele haber un salto mínimo. Aquí no hay salto mínimo. Literalmente, dependiendo del tiempo que pulse, salta más o menos. Bueno, esto es sencillo. Quería ver hasta dónde llegaba. Tengo que bajar, no tengo más posibilidades. Vale, otro salto mínimo. Me da un poco de miedo porque estoy acostumbrado a otros juegos con el salto mínimo, que es un poquito más... O sea, es que aquí literalmente no salta, se le da muy rápido, mirad. Vamos.
The old man's friends actually seemed quite happy when I made it through. We might have a winner after all, said the man in black. It's no Killbot 3000, but you can almost see the fire in its eyes. A couple of days later, the old lady said she had a surprise for me. My own room.
Vamos.
She also wanted to play me some music. I wasn't sure after what Mr. Silton had shown me. As if music wasn't amazing enough, the old lady then bought me a television set. I couldn't believe what I saw. I watched everything I could. Comedy, drama, horror, sci-fi. Anything anyone wanted to watch, I would happily watch with them. Then one day, the old man set up a small box. He plugged some cables into the television and said, "This is what I meant when I said video games."
Descubierto los videojuegos.
Games at every chance I could. I took on everyone. I was unstoppable. I had enjoyed music, film, and television. But to me, video games really were the highest art form.
Vamos. Oye, me cae bien la familia. He tenido suerte con la familia que me ha tocado, ¡Ojo! Tenis de mesa para dos. Poca broma, A ver si vamos a tener que jugar al pan. Vale. ¡Ojo! Vale, vale. Esto no es ninguna broma. Esto no es ninguna tontería, Tengo que ganar. Pase lo que pase, tengo que ganar. Vale. Vale. Ahí está. Sin tu... ¡Eh! Por la vacilada casi pierdo, ¡El bar! Que no, que me están estafando. Vale, parece ser que tiene que dar en el círculo. Si da en el palo, en la parte baja, no me dan el punto, o sea, no rebota. Eso no lo sabía yo. No vale, Eso tiene que haber un tutorial que me lo explique. Toma.
Heather's birthday was a couple of months later. Her mum and dad had bought her a camera. and arranged a day up by the sea, so that Heather could take some photos.
La niña es la única que me falta por ganarme.
I think she wanted any pictures of me. When the old man asked the professor if he wanted to go, he frowned and said, "I can't believe you want to spend time with that thing. It could destroy the world."
What?
I wasn't sure what he meant, but the old man just smiled and said, "That's what you said about the Game Boy." Anton, how about you? "I don't think so," said Mr. Deck.
Me cae bien
The
este, es el
last
que peor me
time
cae.
I got in that car, Barry crashed us into a branch of Woolworths. I never would have gone into Woolworths of my own accord. The old man explained that the car was old and the brakes had failed, but Mr. Deck was having none of it. So Mr. Silton drove, and Alice came along for the fresh air. I enjoyed being outside. Although, the old lady kept telling me to be careful of the rickety old walkways. It felt like she was telling me off, but I think she was just concerned.
Me estoy metiendo de lleno en el videojuego, me estoy metiendo muchísimo.
And I stood on the cliff tops. I could see something in the distance. I wasn't sure what it was, so I asked the old man. He said it was a battleship that had sunk in the 1940s. But he looked so sad when he spoke about war. I didn't see what happened, but the metal platform Heather was climbing on had collapsed. She was safe, even if the rocks she was on looked very dangerous. The tide was rising, and we didn't know how long the Coast Guard was going to be, so I offered to climb down and get her. The old man agreed, but said I should be careful, as Heather doesn't have infinite lives, like I do.
Lo tendré en cuenta. Vale. Vamos con las manos grandes. ¡Ah! ¡Que esto se cae! ¡Esto se cae! No te preocupes, Heather, te salvaré. Te salvaré la vida. Resiste, amiga Heather. Ay, Dios, Heather. Ah, contra. Os lo juro que creía que eso había que cogerlo. Veo una chispa y digo, eso hay que cogerlo. Ay, Dios mío. Parecía un power up o algo raro. Heather, aguanta. Perdona. Que creía que era un power up. No me odies. A ver.
Heather was unconscious, and her leg was broken.
Oh.
So I picked her up as gently as I could. I decided it would be best if I didn't run the rest of the way.
Vale. Pues no corro. Vamos, no estoy dando al botón de correr. No sé si me dejará, pero no le voy a dar. Calma.
An ambulance had arrived by the time I had made it back to the cliff top. The medics made sure Heather was okay, and then took her off to hospital. A few days later, we all went to see how she was doing. She was fine, but would have to wear the cast for a couple of months.
Oye, ¿soy yo o solamente se escucha por un altavoz? ¡Soy un héroe! Este juego me da la sensación... ¿No respiráis una especie de aura en el que en cualquier momento va a ocurrir algo terrible? ¿Pero terrible de verdad, no la caída de la niña? Me está dando mal rollo en ese sentido. La presentación de la familia es increíble, ¿eh? Es una de las mejores presentaciones que he vivido, tío. O sea, es muy chula. Y es realmente emotivo.
Once Heather got to know me, we became good friends. We enjoyed the same films and TV. She was also annoyingly good at some of my... After a while, she became very interested in how I worked. Soon she knew as much about me as the old man did, if not more. We spent the next couple of months visiting other countries, as when it came to teaching me things, the old man always liked to pick interesting locations. He had explained the basics of mathematics to me at the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Taught me history in the dead of night, surrounded by mysterious giant stones. And even showed me science in action high up in a hot air balloon.
¡Ojo!
This is why I was surprised when the old man took me to a restaurant. It was nice, but it seemed very somber compared to the previous grand locations. He said he just wanted to chat, and this was nice and quiet. Plus it was his favorite place to eat. We talked about life, the universe, Douglas Adams, everything really. When I asked him why were we here, why did we exist, he just smiled and said, life is like a game, just don't expect to be finished anytime soon. When I looked puzzled, he said, well, everyone should have a purpose. So I asked him, what's my purpose? He thought for
Buena
a
pregunta.
bit, then said, so you want to be a real boy? Which just confused me even more. Eventually the old man said, for now, I want you to help clean things around the house. I must have looked unimpressed, as he then said, okay, I want you to clean 1,000,000 things. It didn't sound like the meaning of life, but I suppose you've got to start somewhere.
O sea que al final, o sea, tanta belleza, tanto amor. ¡Oh! Ya se escucha en estéreo. Me estaba rayando un poquito, ¿eh? Descubriendo mi propósito, está bien, ¿vale? A lo mejor el anciano tiene algo pensado para mí y empezamos por ahí. Espero que os haya gustado, un like hermoso si os ha gustado, suscribiros si no estáis suscritos, comenta cualquier cosa que se os pase por la cabeza en el vídeo y mirad qué vídeos más hermosos, qué dos vídeos más hermosos, pinchad uno, os va a encantar. ¡Adiós!
Hago directos todos los días, ven a verme a Facebook.